will now introduce you to our last panelist, but definitely not the least, Mr. Raymond Wong, who is the founder and president of Wong & Wong Associates. Over the years, Mr. Wong has carved out a reputation as an expert problem solver and fierce litigator handling civil litigation, criminal defense, and transactional matters. Mr. Wong's educational background in the fields of electrical and chemical engineering is reflected in his precise, logical approach to legal problems, which his experiences as a former soldier in the U.S. Army National Guard accounts for his prominent ability to strategize and fight in our adversarial legal system. Since founding the firm in 1988, Mr. Wong has helped countless clients in their legal needs. He is born in mainland China, but raised in Hong Kong and moved to the U.S. in his teens. Mr. Wong understands the unique needs and concerns facing Chinese Americans, and Hong Kongers attempting to navigate the U.S. legal system. Mr. Wong is licensed to practice law in New York and New Jersey, and he is the vice chair and board member of the Hong Kong Association of New York, and he is also the founder and chairman of the board of the Chinese American Bar Association. And today, Raymond will present to us the most common paths to come to the U.S., such as family-based immigration, work visas, student visas, visa lottery, and special treatments for Hong Kongers and recent policy changes under the Biden administration. Welcome, Raymond.
Thank you, everyone. Apologize the noise outside. There's a little construction outside, so there may be a little noise affecting the talk today. The U.S. immigration is a big topic, so I wouldn't be able to finish that in a few minutes. But I will refer you to, if you have time, to go to the website of the USCIS, the U.S. Citizen and Naturalization Services. And they have very good forms that where you can look up and see how everything is done. And also, I would ask you to hire a reputable law firm to help you with whatever needs that you may have. Immigration law in the United States evolved very slowly. People, if remember studying from law school, there were Chinese Exclusion Act in the 1800s. So like it didn't really treat the Chinese that well back then. But things have evolved. And recently, the big change is the U.S.-China relations, the fact that the change on the immigration for the Hong Kong people. Since I'm an immigrant from Hong Kong, so this is a topic affected a lot of the people that I know. The Trump administration decided to have an executive order after the security law in Hong Kong. So they suspended the treatment of Hong Kong people, treated like a separate territory. So the visa, the treatment will be the same for Hong Kong people as the Chinese people now. So coming to the United States would be a little bit more difficult for the Hong Kong people. And also in terms of immigration, the biggest part of it is family-based. I immigrated to the United States by family-based. And that's also, since this is a Hong Kong Association in New York, I would think it's basically a business community. So there will be a lot of business immigration, like L1 visa, H1, people with abilities. And I think like all jurisdictions, people would want to get able people to come and work in the United States. So depending on your skill sets, I mean, there are skilled employment and unskilled worker. So depending on what is your status, so you can talk to the immigration expert and to see where you fit so you can come. With the laws in 1990, we don't have any new immigration law per se. Since 1990, there was a limit of 140,000 business people, skilled people that can come in the United States, and only 7% of that per country. So the law is stacked against big countries like China and India. So there's a long waiting list. And Congress knew that. And I, as a matter of fact, when I was a young lawyer, I actually wrote a letter to Senator Schumer, who was in charge of the immigration policies. And now he's the majority leader in the Senate, to reflect that why is that the case? I mean, why there is so little quota. We do have a quota for these big countries. And fortunately, last year, there is a called the Eagles Act, where both the House and the Senate passed the bill, but it hasn't been reconciled, to allow that 7% to be 15%. So there will be more people coming to the United States from those two countries. So that is the latest development. Another development is the Biden administration in August passed an executive order. Now, since there's no new laws that are coming out, and presidents have been using executive orders exclusively to make change in America. If people remember that during the Trump administration, let's go back to Obama administration, that he actually sent Gary Locke to be the ambassador to China. And that made profound change in the visa policy, that from Chinese national used to have to wait for like 70 days to get a visa approval to 5 to 7 days. So that is a big change in terms of visa improvement during the Obama administration. During the Trump administration, because the relationship between US-China was chilled and the immigration process was going very slowly. So you see things are getting approved very late and maybe not even being careful. Because of most new immigrants are Democrats. So it becomes very political. And with the Biden administration, he actually followed the same policy with Trump in terms of treatment of Hong Kong. And he came up with, in August, he came up with new executive order to allow people from Hong Kong to stay in the United States for 18 months, so-called safe haven policy. Now, that is a very important policy because if you come to the United States, there are many ways to stay. The easiest way people stay is to marry a citizen because there's no quota. If you marry, that's presumably you're single, and people would go extreme to divorce their spouse and marry an American citizen. And from my practice, I'm surprised by many of people are dating on the internet. So you have Americans actually dating people in China. And I remember in my New Jersey office one day, a couple came in, they don't talk to each other. The husband speaks English, he's American. The wife spoke Mandarin and with me. And I say, how do you communicate to each other? They use Google translation. I say, wait, would that work with the immigration to think that that may be a bogus marriage? But that's how the new world works with family-based kind of cases. So since the limitation of time, I would just go that from the past, the treatment of Hong Kong, now part of China, has not been so favorable, but it's getting better. And from a non-civil society to a civil society, it takes time. And we can see the riots that we had in our capital. So with the immigration, it's the same thing. And I think that is a long process. It's going to the right way. But for people that are enjoying coming to the United States, is very much like all other nations. People are looking for better opportunities. And I think from the point of our country, United States, we want able people to come, like the intellectual, like Yao Ming. He had no trouble because that would be our national interest to get someone have extraordinary abilities to come to the United States. But we also have foreign workers coming to do their fair share of the work. So the immigration practice is very, very broad. As the introduction earlier said that I'm a litigator, but I'm being forced to do immigration by default because first of all, I was an immigrant from Hong Kong, and all my clients are basically from Hong Kong, China, and elsewhere, a majority of Chinese national. And for the last 30-some years, I can escape immigration law. And also the Chinese in mainland are doing better and better. So there are more subsidiaries that actually come to the United States and expand their business. A word of caution is that try to hire reputable people, because I have very well-to-do people hire immigration services, get them papers submitted, but they were not accurate papers. And with any immigration officers, the custom, if you make a mistake with your application and then during the interview it doesn't pan out, you're in trouble, because our country are very strict on laws. If you make one mistake, they will deny your visa, and it happens to so many people. In the past, they didn't think much of it. They just do whatever they want to put in the petition without being careful. And they submitted different record of their college education, I mean, like in different times. So even you're a millionaire, you hire the biggest law firm, you wouldn't be able to prevail if you don't do things accurately. So that's all for now. And it's a big topic, and I hope my talk is helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Raymond. Definitely something that I keep a close eye and ear out for. It's always changing, as we mentioned earlier. I was just wondering, you mentioned a little bit to make sure that you hire, professionals to be able to assist you in preparing your immigration packages as, properly as possible. What's the most common problem that you see? Maybe an example of one when, immigrants are trying to apply for the visa so that they could maybe avoid it beforehand or prepare their files better?
I think the biggest problem is not accurate. No matter what you do, when you make a statement, I mean, these forms are standard forms. And when you fill it in, it has to match during the interview. And if you submit once, it should be the same when you submit the second time. I had a client who wanted to open a business, I mean, like a trading company in the United States, hire immigration services. And he actually had a college degree from a university from China, but he put down military. So that was a red flag. And also he submitted a second graduate certificate were very different from the first one. So he spent years trying to come. He spent about $8 million already investing in his business locally, trying to set up a company to do trading between the United States and China. And he wasn't able to come because of those mistakes he made by hiring non-professionals. And I can understand people would try to do anything to get the original entry he got here before, but when you do the green card process, it didn't match to the first time when you do your visa. That's a big problem. And many people from a different country, they like to say whatever they want and not be consistent. And what they say do not match with the paperwork. That is repeated time and time again. And it causes people to be denied entry, even they have legitimate visa before, and they are forever barred to come to the United States because they lied. So that is a terrible result to many families, because some of them were married couple, and the husband is in the United States, wife had an H1, went to China, visit someone, came back during the interview, did not give a true statement, and she was denied entry. That broke the whole family.
Wow, that's very, very sad story.
Very serious, very serious. And recently, we're seeing more litigation now because of visa fraud, quote unquote, being politicized. And we're handing, people from mainland China going to exchange program, J visa, and they're being prosecuted for being spies, maybe, or doing bad things for their country. Yeah. So it becomes politicized now, and you would never see anything like that remotely to being prosecuted in the federal courts. It's crazy.